Anti-Afro Spingalis, this message goes out to G.F.T.V, Grown Folk TV Zone. I'm congratulating you. I'm acknowledging the fact that you got 99%. And what am I talking about when I say 99%? With respect to the lawsuit that has been discussed. This lawsuit was filed in 2021. And can you believe those in the Umar Johnson sector remain stuck only on what the person said who filed the lawsuit, CB or her initials? I'm going to go into the lawsuit and some issues in another video. I'm focusing on the 99% here. They only focused on one area. There was even a lawyer in the Umar Johnson sector, although she comes on drunk all the time, who said, I'm only going to focus on what Catherine says. I don't like to interact with most of the subjects in the Umar Johnson sector because there's no point to having any discussion with anyone who's only going to focus on one aspect of a situation. You pulled up the lawsuit on your channel. You went through what CB had alleged. You covered the motions for dismissal, the judge's decision, and you talked about the default judgment. Those are the updated elements of the lawsuit. But in and around the Umar Johnson sector, they are not interested. The lawsuit was also covered in different sectors. Someone from the Umar Johnson sector let those in the other sectors know about the lawsuit. They were going over it. How could they have gone through the lawsuit if they're coming back to ask me, did you do these things? They're not even focusing on the fact that the judge dismissed Rev G, me, and AFW, making it clear the lawsuit had no merit, which you know, but that's not covered. They don't have to cover it. I'm pointing out they had plenty of opportunity to cover the lawsuit in a responsible manner, but they decided against it. So what do you call it when someone has all the information about a lawsuit and they decide to only take over a certain part of the lawsuit to a group they think is going to believe what they say? It goes beyond manipulation. It's calculating. It's deceitful and it's treacherous. And this is what the Umar Johnson sector does. So let me talk about what I mean by 99%. You put the lawsuit up. You talked about the allegations, like briefly. You mentioned motions that were filed. You indicated the fact that the judge/court dismissed me, Rev G, AFW, and then you talked about the default judgment. And you did this on the fly. They've had the case for 3 years. Their intentions were contorted. They had an angle. You put out the information. Now, the 1% is Catherine Brown filed the lawsuit. So the default judgment would be to her benefit because she filed the lawsuit. We are among the defendants. There were like 15, 16. Again, I'm going to go over the lawsuit, but that's the only part that got a little bit turned upside down. So what? They want to make a big deal about something so small, and they've had the case for 3 years and very deliberately try to manipulate how someone feels about others, trying to label them dangerous when they only read one part of a lawsuit, which the judge ended up declaring as respect to me, Rev G, AFW, it had no merit. And then there were 3 people who decided they didn't want to take the time to clear their name, or at least make an effort to. So that's what I'm talking about. You got 99%. And of course, they're going to say what they're going to say. It doesn't matter. Again, I appreciate you just coming up and just speaking the truth, which I have stated over and over again, and I will continue to reemphasize. The truth is something that most subjects in the Umar Johnson sector have an extreme aversion to. They're allergic to it. They ride heavy, they ride deep on spreading lies about others and existing in a state of euphoria if they perceive they have achieved any measure of success. That is what the Umar Johnson sector is about. It's based on the behaviors of Umar Johnson, so it will never change. This is how those subjects are. There are only a few people in the Umar Johnson sector who stand for something. And of course, those exceptions are targeted and harassed. And any compliment that is given to us, those in the Umar Johnson sector get incredibly enraged. There's other emotions that go along with that. I'm going to talk about that because it needs to be talked about. But something that is undeniable, there's no debate. You have 99%. And it's really sad, though, when you think about it in comparison to what the Umar Johnson sector expects. They expect you to come on here and lie and harass people in order to appease them. Just the plain simple truth, a breath of fresh air, they find suffocating. Again, Grown Folks TV, I'm glad you're standing on what you believe in. It obviously comes natural, but keep in mind, you are going to be stressing out an increased number of subjects who are simply not used to just standing up and doing the right thing, because that's what you should be doing. You shouldn't be running around lying on people and trying to force people into believing something about others based on partial information that you deliberately bring over. Reemphasizing, that is the Umar Johnson sector. Listen, folks, you know I have more coming your way. In the meantime, buyer beware.